Okay, so picture this. You bring home this, like, adorable wiggly puppy, right?
Yeah.
Instant love, totally. But then maybe the vacuum cleaner comes out, and bam, your little fur ball is, like, plastered to the floor, trembling like a leaf.
Oh, yeah. Seen that one.
Or, maybe every time you just grab your coat, they start howling like you're leaving forever or something. It really makes you wonder, like, what on earth is going on in that furry little head, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, what you're often seeing there are, well, they're usually signs of dog anxiety, which is exactly what we're digging into today.
Oh, okay.
It's actually way more common than many folks realize, and it doesn't always look like, sheer terror. Sometimes it's much more subtle. Think of it maybe as your dog trying to tell you they're feeling uneasy, even if they can't use words.
Right. Right, like a little secret code. So, okay, today we're kind of on a mission then to demystify this whole dog anxiety thing for you listening. Yeah. We're not aiming to make you a canine therapist overnight or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
But we want to give you a good handle on what dog anxiety actually is, how to spot the clues they're giving us, and some really practical first steps you could maybe consider. It's like learning a basic phrase book for your dog's worries, maybe.
That's a great way to put it, a phrase book, yeah. So let's start with the core question, right? What exactly is anxiety in dogs? In, like, simple terms, it's when they're anticipating something. Yeah. Something potentially negative in the future. It's that feeling of dread, almost.
Okay, so anticipation.
Exactly. It's different from just normal fear, which is, a direct reaction to something happening right now, like that scary vacuum cleaner.
Gotcha.
And it's also distinct from a phobia, which is more of an intense, often kind of irrational fear of a specific thing, like thunderstorms or fireworks. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is more of a general feeling of worry or apprehension about what might happen.
Huh. So it's kind of like that nagging feeling of unease we humans get sometimes, that sort of general sense that something might not be quite right.
Exactly like that, yes. And just like with us, it's really important to realize that anxiety in dogs isn't just one simple thing. It's complex. There are often underlying reasons why a dog might be feeling this way. And also, it's just crucial to remember that dogs have a whole range of emotions, right? Anxiety itself is actually a normal emotion. The problem really starts when that anxiety becomes too much, or it happens too often, or it starts to really affect their quality of life,
Yeah, that makes sense. And it can affect any dog, can't it? It's not like only certain breeds are prone to it.
That's correct, yeah. I mean, while some breeds might have maybe a greater tendency towards being fearful in general, anxiety itself, it can affect any dog. It doesn't matter the breed, age, or history. And here's a really, really key point, I think. When a dog is showing anxious behaviors, like having accidents in the house when you leave.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah, it's almost never out of spite. They're not trying to get back at you. They're genuinely feeling distressed.
Okay, that's actually such a relief to hear. Because you feel like, why are they doing this to me,
I know, but it takes that personal feeling out of it.
Yeah. So how do we actually recognize it then? If it's not spite, what are the signals? What should we be looking out for?
Well, dogs have all sorts of ways of telling us how they're feeling. Their body language and their behavior, those are often the big clues about their anxiety levels. Some signs are pretty clear, like panting when they're not hot, pacing back and forth like they're waiting for bad news, trembling or shaking, drooling excessively, or even just trying to disappear, hiding.
Hiding. I've definitely seen the hiding act during Thunderstorms. My sister's dog. Total master of camouflage under the bed. Everything.
Oh, definitely. Under the bed, in the closet. Yeah. But what about some of the maybe less obvious signs?
Yeah, tell me about those.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Sometimes an anxious dog might just seem more on edge or even act a bit aggressively. Barking or growling more easily than usual.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can happen. You might also notice their tail is held really low or maybe tucked right under. Their ears might be flattened back against their head, or their eyes look really wide, showing a lot of the white part. People sometimes call that whale eye.
Whale eye, okay.
Their whole body might look sort of low and tense, and they might seem hesitant to do things they normally enjoy, or they might actively try to avoid certain situations altogether.
So it's not always the cowering in a corner type. Some might actually just seem a bit grumpy or shut down.
Exactly. Grumpy, shut down, avoidant. And sometimes an anxious dog might show what looks like the complete opposite of being scared.
Oh, like what?
They might become like Overly enthusiastic, constantly seeking attention, jumping up on people, licking faces nonstop.
Whoa.
Yeah, these are often their way of trying to get reassurance, like, is everything okay? Tell me everything's okay.
That's surprising. It's so easy to mistake that for just being super friendly and excited. Wow.
Absolutely, it's easy to misread. Then there are things we call displacement behaviors.
Displacement. Okay.
Think of it like this. When a dog is feeling stressed or maybe conflicted about something, they might suddenly do a normal behavior, but it looks kind of out of place. It doesn't fit the context.
Right.
Like, for example, they might start yawning even though they're clearly not tired, or stretch when they haven't been lying down, maybe blink rapidly for no obvious reason, or sneeze when their nose isn't itchy, or suddenly become intensely interested in sniffing the ground, like super focused, as if they've found the most fascinating smell ever, even though nothing has really changed around them.
Okay, wait. My dog does that weird sniffing thing sometimes, like when we have visitors over. I always just thought he was just being a curious little sniffer dude.
It could be. Or it could be a subtle sign that they're feeling a little unsure or stressed by the new people. It's about the context, see.
Okay, what else?
Other clues can include having accidents in the house, especially if it mainly happens when they're left alone. That can be a big sign of separation anxiety. You might also see changes in their overall personality, their demeanor. They could seem kind of down or withdrawn, maybe more irritable than their usual happy self. Sleeping more than they typically do, or losing interest in things they usually love, like their favorite toys or training sessions, going for walks, even interacting with you or other dogs. This pattern is more common if they're dealing with anxiety for a long time, like chronic anxiety.
Right, so if my dog suddenly isn't bouncing off the walls for their walkies, it might be more than just a lazy day. It could be anxiety.
It could be, yeah. Worth paying attention to. You might also notice physical signs linked to their body's stress response. You know, the fight or flight thing.
Like heart racing.
Exactly. Heart beating faster, panting more heavily, even if they haven't been running around. In more intense cases, you could see them doing repetitive things, like constantly licking a paw.
Oh, yeah, lick granulomas.
Right, or even self-harm, like excessively biting at their tail. They might also become hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant of everything around them, looking very stiff and alert, ears constantly swiveling, or they might show little peace-offering behaviors, appeasement gestures, like quickly licking their lips or giving a sort of submissive little grin.
Wow, okay. That's quite a list. It really sounds like we need to be like doggy detectives and look at the whole picture, not just one or two things here and there.
Precisely. That's the perfect way to think about it. Recognizing those subtle signals and paying attention to the context in which they happen is absolutely key. A quick yawn after a nap. Totally different from a series of long, drawn-out yawns when they're in a new or potentially stressful situation. Makes sense.
Totally.
And how intense these signs are can vary a lot, you know? From just a slight tremble to a full-blown panic attack where they're desperately trying to escape. It really depends on the individual dog and the type and the intensity of their anxiety.
Okay, so we're starting to get a handle on what dog anxiety looks like. A lot of different forms. Now let's talk about what can actually cause these anxious feelings in the first place. What are some of the common triggers?
Yeah, good question. There are a wide range of potential triggers. One big category is fear-related anxiety. This can be set off by loud noises. Thunderstorms and fireworks are the classic examples. Super common, many dog owners know those well.
Oh yeah, July 4th is fun.
Right. It can also be triggered by unfamiliar people or other animals, certain things they see, like maybe hats or umbrellas suddenly opening.
Weird things.
Yeah. New or strange places or specific situations like going to the vet, which, let's be honest, many dogs see as a house of horrors.
True.
Or even car rides.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, sometimes even the texture of certain surfaces can make some dogs anxious about walking on them.
Oh yeah, definitely. My neighbor's dog absolutely refuses, point blank, to step onto our hardwood floors. It's like they're made of hot lava or something.
It's more common than you might think. Shiny floors can be scary. Then we have separation anxiety, which we touched on. This is a really big one. It affects a significant number of dogs. Some studies suggest it could be around maybe 14%.
14%? Wow.
Yeah. These dogs get incredibly upset and stressed when they're left alone or even just separated from their main human family members.
Well, that sounds so tough for them, obviously, but also for the owners dealing with the, the barking and the chewed up furniture and everything.
Exactly. It's hard on everyone. Another cause, especially as our dogs get older, our senior pups, is age-related anxiety. It's often linked to something called cognitive dysfunction syndrome, or CDS.
CDS, okay.
Think of it a bit like doggy dementia or Alzheimer's. It can lead to confusion, disorientation, and, yeah, increased anxiety in older dogs as their brain function changes.
Oh, that must be so unsettling for them. It makes total sense that they might feel more anxious if they're not quite understanding what's going on around them anymore. Poor things.
It really is, absolutely. And going back to younger pups, not getting enough positive exposure to new things during that really important puppy development window, roughly between 3 and maybe 14 weeks old.
The socialization period.
Exactly. That can also significantly increase their chances of developing anxiety later in life. Meeting different people, seeing different sights, hearing different sounds, all in a positive, non-scary way during this time, helps them learn that the world isn't necessarily a terrifying place.
So those puppy socialization classes and just gently introducing them to all sorts of new experiences are really, really vital then.
Absolutely essential. Couldn't stress it enough. And unfortunately, if a dog has been through some kind of traumatic experience in the past, that can also leave lasting emotional scars and contribute to ongoing anxiety. There can also be a genetic component sometimes. We know that certain breeds just seem to have a greater tendency towards being more fearful or anxious than others.
Interesting, okay. Are there any, physical health issues that can actually cause or maybe worsen anxiety in dogs?
Yes, definitely. That's a really important connection. If a dog is feeling unwell or is in pain from any kind of illness or injury, that can significantly raise their overall anxiety levels. Makes sense, right? If you don't feel good, you're more likely to be worried.
Yeah, totally.
Changes in their nervous system due to aging or even certain infections can also play a role, as can exposure to toxic substances. And even seemingly small changes in their daily routine, especially changes related to when they're left alone or moving to a new house, or any changes in the household members, like a new pet arriving or maybe a family member leaving those, can be significant triggers for some dogs.
Wow. They're sensitive to routine.
Very. And finally, it's worth remembering that behaviors like being overly protective of their food or toys resource guarding or acting aggressively towards strangers in their territory, those can sometimes stem from an underlying feeling of anxiety or insecurity.
Gosh, it's incredible how many different things can feed into a dog feeling anxious.
Yeah.
It really highlights how much we need to tune into their individual experiences, what might be going on for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a better understanding now of why a dog might be anxious. What can we actually do about it? Let's talk prevention and management. How can we help?
Right. So prevention really kicks off right in puppyhood with that crucial socialization period we talked about. Exposing puppies to a wide variety of new situations, people, other animals, sounds, textures, all in a positive and non-threatening way during that, roughly 3 to 14-week window. Absolutely key.
Get them young.
Get them young positively, and it's important to continue those positive experiences well beyond that initial period too, as they continue to learn and build confidence throughout their lives.
Okay. And what about for adult dogs? What can we do to help prevent anxiety developing or getting worse?
For adult dogs, I'd say consistency and predictability are your best friends. Having a regular daily routine for feeding, walks, potty breaks, playtime, rest, it helps them feel safe and secure because they know what to expect. Reduces uncertainty.
Makes sense.
Making sure they get plenty of exercise and mental stimulation that's appropriate for their age, breed, and any health conditions they might have. That's also crucial. Burns off extra energy, lowers stress.
Mental stimulation like puzzle toys.
Puzzle toys, training games, sniffy walks, yeah. Learning to understand and respect your dog's body language, those subtle social cues they give us, that's another really important part of prevention. Knowing when they're saying, I'm uncomfortable. Using positive reinforcement, reward-based training methods. That not only helps them learn useful skills, but also builds clear communication and trust between you and your dog, which can seriously boost their confidence. Also, just really respecting their individual needs. Needs for things like being petted or not being petted. Some dogs aren't cuddlers. Having enough quiet rest, being able to eat peacefully without being bothered, having some alone time if they need it, and getting appropriate interaction with people.
Respecting their boundaries.
Exactly. And of course, regular checkups with your veterinarian are essential. Always rule out any underlying medical issues that could be contributing to or causing the anxiety.
Got it. Okay, so that's the proactive sort of long-term stuff.
Yeah.
What about when our dog is actually feeling anxious right now, in the moment? How can we help them calm down?
Yeah, that's tough. It really depends heavily on what's causing their anxiety in that moment. If they're terrified of a thunderstorm, like we talked about,
Yeah.
maybe creating a safe, cozy den for them, like a crate covered with a blanket in a quiet room, maybe with some white noise that might help them feel more secure.
A safe space.
Exactly. For something like separation anxiety, though, that often requires a more structured behavior modification plan, usually with professional guidance. But in general, using positive reinforcement training methods and making their daily routine more predictable, those things can be really beneficial for most anxious dogs overall. And here's something really important I want to emphasize. Comforting your dog when they're scared. It doesn't actually make their fear worse. It doesn't reinforce the fear.
Really?
Really. Fear is an emotion. It's an internal state. It's not a behavior that they're choosing to do to get attention. However, comforting them can reinforce their understanding that you are a source of safety and help when they feel afraid. They learn to come to you, which can be a really good thing.
Oh, it's so reassuring to know. I always wondered if I was making my dog more of a scaredy cat by cuddling him when he got nervous about something.
Nope. You're likely just helping him feel safer in that moment.
Good. Okay. So, what are some general strategies for managing anxiety over the long term? What else can we do day to day?
Well, teaching your dog a settle or calm down cue can be incredibly helpful in lots of situations. You practice it when they're calm, and then you can use it when they start getting worked up.
Okay, like a go to your mat kind of thing.
Exactly, or just a verbal cue to relax. When they're going to be alone, providing them with plenty of enriching activities like those puzzle feeders, long-lasting chew toys that can help keep their minds occupied and reduce anxiety related to boredom or being alone. For specific things that trigger their anxiety, techniques like desensitization and counter-conditioning can be very effective. DSCC.
Okay, how does that work? Sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty logical. It involves gradually exposing your dog to the trigger, let's say, the sight of other dogs, if they're dog reactive but at a very low level, far enough away that they notice it but don't get scared. And at the same time, you pair that trigger with something they really love, like super high value treats, so they start associating the thing they were worried about with good stuff happening.
Ah, changing the association.
Precisely. The absolute key is to go super slowly at their pace and never push them over their threshold where they become fearful. And honestly, it's often best done with guidance from a professional. Definitely avoid forcing them to confront their fears head-on, sometimes called flooding. That can seriously backfire and make their anxiety much, much worse.
Right. No throwing them in the deep end.
Exactly not. Sticking to a regular routine for meals, walks, playtime, rest. We mentioned that for prevention, but it's huge for management too.
Yeah.
Predictability helps them feel secure. Creating a designated safe space for them, like a comfy den or crate. If they enjoy crates, not all dogs do, can give them a place to retreat to when they feel overwhelmed.
Their own little sanctuary.
Minimizing loud noises and visual disturbances from outside, like closing curtains during fireworks, or putting on some calming background music or white noise, that can be helpful for noise-sensitive dogs. For separation anxiety specifically, you can practice very short, gradual departures, make their alone area as comfortable and appealing as possible, maybe special toys they only get when alone. You could also consider using calming pheromone diffusers or sprays and gradually get them used to your pre-departure cues, like picking up keys, putting on shoes without actually leaving, so those things lose their predictive power.
Desensitizing the leaving routine.
Yes, making sure they get enough physical exercise and mental stimulation overall. That just helps lower their general stress levels, makes them more resilient. And it's often crucial to try and avoid situations that you know will trigger their anxiety whenever possible, at least while you're working on the issue. Management is key. Always reward and praise them gently when they're showing calm behavior. Catch them being good.
Good advice.
And try to stay calm yourself. Easier said than done sometimes, I know. But our anxiety can definitely travel down the leash and make our dog's anxiety worse.
Deep breaths for the humans, too.
Definitely. There are also sound desensitization CDs or apps available, which you can use to gradually get them used to scary noises like thunder or sirens at a very low volume paired with good things. And a really, really important rule. Never, ever punish your dog for anxiety-related behaviors, whether it's barking or chewing or having an accident, because it will only make them more fearful and anxious, and it can really damage your relationship and trust. Plus, punishing them after the fact is especially pointless because dogs just don't connect punishment to something they did even minutes earlier. They won't understand why you're upset.
Right. They just know you're scary in that moment.
Exactly. Finally, try to keep greetings and departures calm and low-key, no big dramatic farewells or overly excited reunions, and giving them little jobs to do like learning tricks, doing nose work, carrying a favorite toy on walks that can provide them with positive mental and physical engagement.
Wow, these are all such helpful and practical tips, really concrete things people can try. But how do we know when it's time to bring in the professionals? When is anxiety maybe beyond what we can manage on our own with these strategies?
That's a critical question. If your dog is experiencing frequent or ongoing chronic anxiety, the very first step should always be a visit to your veterinarian. Always. You absolutely need to rule out any underlying medical issues first. Things like chronic pain, skin problems that cause constant itching, thyroid issues, other illnesses, they can all contribute significantly to anxiety or even be the primary cause.
So vet check first, always.
Always. Your vet might then recommend anti-anxiety medications, maybe some supplements, or they might suggest a referral to a veterinary behaviorist.
A veterinary behaviorist.
Yes, that's a veterinarian who has done extensive extra training and specialization in diagnosing and treating complex behavioral issues in animals, including anxiety. They're the top experts. Also, if you're dealing with clear signs of separation anxiety, because it can be so complex and distressing, seeking guidance from a certified veterinary behaviorist or perhaps a certified experienced dog trainer who specializes in anxiety is highly recommended. Don't try to go it alone usually.
Okay.
If your dog suddenly develops new fears or anxiety seemingly out of the blue, or if they start becoming fearful of many different unrelated things, that definitely warrants a veterinary checkup too to look for medical causes.
Yeah.
And crucially, if your dog's anxiety is linked to any kind of aggressive behavior, growling, snapping, biting, it's absolutely essential to seek professional help immediately for safety reasons and for the dog's welfare.
Don't wait on aggression.
Don't wait. It's also important to understand that medications, when prescribed by a vet, are often used alongside behavior modification plans. They aren't usually a magic bullet on their own, but they can be incredibly beneficial in lowering a dog's overall stress level. This can make it much easier for them to actually learn new coping skills and benefit from the training and behavior mod work. They're less overwhelmed, so they can learn better.
That makes sense. The meds help the training work better.
Often, yes. And just one more critical reminder. Never, ever, ever give your dog any kind of human anti-anxiety medication. Their bodies process drugs differently, and it can be extremely dangerous or even fatal.
Okay, super important point. Don't play vet.
Please don't.
Well, wow, this has been so incredibly helpful. I feel like I understand this so much better now. It's really clear that understanding dog anxiety is just so important for giving our wonderful furry family members the happy and healthy lives they truly deserve.
Absolutely. I think the key things to take away are, first, be really observant of your dog. Learn to recognize the different ways anxiety can show up, both the obvious and the subtle signs. Then, try to figure out what might be causing those feelings for your specific dog. And finally, put in place appropriate strategies for prevention and management, being patient and consistent.
Yeah. And as always, we have to say, if you have any worries at all about your own dog's health or their behavior, please reach out to a certified veterinarian. This deep dive is really meant for educational purposes to get you thinking, but it should never, ever be seen as a substitute for professional veterinary advice and care tailored to your actual pet.
Couldn't agree more. And maybe on that note, here's a little something to think about this week for everyone listening. Take a few extra moments, maybe on your next walk or just when you're hanging out at home, to really watch your dog. Look for some of those subtle clues we talked about, the lip licking, the yawning, the body tension, and just consider, is there perhaps one small adjustment you could make? Something simple in their daily routine or maybe their environment that might just help them feel a little bit more secure, a little less anxious. You might be surprised at the positive difference even one small change can sometimes make.